Hello, Talkin' Fight fans, and welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Panel featuring me and Graham, who will be joining us shortly in about 10 minutes. That's why I'm introducing us tonight. And our other counterpart, Tim, two-time heavyweight world champion Witherspoon, in the house. And he's brought along with him his good friend Brian, who's going to got a lot of good stuff to discuss today.
My
So
marketing director.
his marketing genius is what he said when we were
Yeah,
off camera, though. When we were off camera, but
that's right.
as
Welcome
it
to the
was,
realm.
we got lots to talk about. We wanted to talk about some good ideas you had for the boxing union, Brian. So you know what, man? I'll give you the platform. Just go ahead and let's start talking.
Yeah, so I'm not an expert on unions, so I just want to preface that right there. I mean, the angle that I'm coming at it with, and I talked with Paul a bit about, is more about what the unions can do
Right.
for a former athlete, a former boxer. I don't know if you guys want to get into MMA fighters, if that's even a direction you guys have considered going, but I
So
know that what's that?
it's all combative sports really needs a union, to be honest.
Yeah, so maybe it would be one of those things that kind of just encompasses them all. But yeah, it's just kind of like what Tim and I are doing together. It's being able to utilize what you've already accomplished. And now it's not for everyone. Of course, somebody who's reached the level of a higher status, of course, going to have more marketability with their name. The name is easier to brand. But I think having skills once you've gotten out of the fight game, and also, I work in healthcare, and you'll be surprised when people reach a certain age and their health fails and all this. Nobody really comes to them and tells them what they can get from the government, what assistance is out there for them. So I think having aggressive, now it's much better than it was 20 years ago in the health industry. But right now we're kind of in the dark ages for fighters. They don't know. They get out, nobody's coming up to them and saying, "Hey, let's look at your neurological level right now. Maybe there's some damage. There should be some maybe post-fight, post-career analysis of somebody's physical and mental capacity after years of fighting. That should be the first assessment. And then what comes with that? What type of programs are there? Support are there for people who've given their life for the entertainment, but now their bodies are ravaged from it. It's and Tim, I mean, there's people, what do you call them, punchy, or afterwards they're just the neurological skills just aren't there. So I think that's important. Health assessment should be a core function. What are the impairments of them people? Maybe a level of I used to work in impairment ratings, maybe giving them some level of impairment rating. What programs will be available for them, especially government programs when they get out. And then career building, like what's your next step when you've transitioned? Like I was in the armed forces. I'm not sure if you were, but when you get out, the hardest thing is transitioning. Who do I become now in this new life? And I think maybe those are the periphery of things that are what we're initially covering, I guess, when you talk about the union. These are the things that we should look at. And then, of course, having your pension type plan. But
Right. So where are we at right now with the union and the movement that you guys are trying to start? Like, how far along is it? How long before we could actually see something like this being actually implemented into the future? Like, how far into the future are we looking before it will get done?
well, I know that they're right in the infancy of it, right, Tim? You're right at the beginning of it. So I think what you have
No,
to
no,
do
no. Let me say this. Paul Johnson has been pursuing these things and us for a while, but to really get serious, we need guys like Bryant and him and all them. So we're really be getting serious right now. Go ahead, Bryant. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't want to take the spotlight here. I know you're more the expert. I mean, I'm giving you an opinion right now. I'm not an expert in
No,
any of this.
I'm just a soldier in the army. You got a lot of experience,
It takes
and Paul
soldiers.
do too,
It
huh?
takes soldiers to get it moving though and get it off the ground, man. It needs the people
Yeah.
that do the due diligence, do the legwork, and all the research and everything to push it forward. Is this the kind of thing that would be going before like the courts or like the Supreme Court or anything like that and get
Well,
Oh, wait, Brian. John, when I talked to Paul about 20 minutes ago, he was talking to the attorneys. So you should call him and get in touch with him. He is having a communication with the lawyers. So I wish he could have got on so we could really blend in and really get a good understanding. But he was talking to the attorneys that's
yeah.
going to represent us.
Oh,
Okay.
that's excellent. Yeah, the first step, of course, is legal, defining what it is, what parameters you can work in. But I think also it's outreach. I'm a marketing guy, public relations person, branding, all that stuff. I think that's a big step is how you get the word out there, and then how you
Right.
get people to get behind it. People got to get passionately behind it. Most of the time, big movements get to where they're going because the average person becomes passionate about it. And I think that's an initially big step. You get the legal foundations known, have a concept built of what that union's going to do, but then sell it to the public, to the people that are going to be passionate and want to fight for this to become something that is actually comes to fruition.
We
Even
definitely need more Tim Witherspoons. We
well,
need more.
even boxing people know
Agree.
exactly. They'll get on real good with what he's talking about. They're ready to go. The boxing people are ready.
See, we need people like you, Tim, to sell it, man, because you can sell it to these athletes that
That's right.
that you've been in their shoes. You know what's coming in the future. You have friends that you can't talk to anymore. That can't hold a conversation. So it's gonna take the veterans like you to really push it to the youth. How Brian, how would you market it? Like how would you use Tim to market it towards the youth to get them to jump on board to be able to pull money out of their purse to dish into this union.
Yeah, I mean, I think like how I'm working with Tim, like we've built this strategy around branding his name. So I'll kind of give you how I work and the way that I kind of see the world. Like with Tim, just to show him how marketable he is. For example, I think Tim was kind of leery about whether or not this is reality. I says, I'm going to take you to a $51 billion company, and I'm going to sit you down in front of some executives, and I guarantee you, I don't know, but I can guarantee you, I don't. They didn't say this to me, but I know how companies think. They're going to offer you an ambassadorship because I understand how companies think about marketing. I understand their mentality, and I know what would be something that would make sense to them. So I brought Tim. Right, Tim. We went in. They sat you down. They put the executives in front of them. Some of the executives weren't. Younger ones weren't even sure who you were. They researched you and realized who you were, and were quite impressed. And they are now putting forward an ambassadorship with him, and we'll have a second talk with them. They're building a marketing plan around Tim. But I guess my idea is, what I'm saying is, we have to look at what, like with Tim, what is it that our objective is?
Hold up, Paul Johnson calling. Hold on. Hello,
Tim,
Paul.
have a wonderful phone calls.
We sent.
Before you cut you off, Brian, you run a good point there.
Well, Paul, we need you. We
articulate
need
it in
you.
my head.
Can you send me the email or send? Do you know the people? Right, you got their stuff, their information, right?
Tell Paul to just give us his email.
Send me your email so I can send it to them.
This is great. I'm excited for
Actually,
this
help
whole
me
thing.
get an
Oh my
idea
goodness! Hold on.
Honestly, I think
Okay.
this is a really great one. It's a
Okay.
great
What is it now? What is it?
Great movement. Unions.
Yeah.
I'm pro this.
Oh yeah. It's a great concept.
Yeah, definitely. To be able to take care of these guys who entertained us for so many years. Some of them didn't make as much money as others due to management and due to promotions and all this kind of stuff.
Crime.
Thank you. It is crime. It is crime. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to get into the sport of prize fighting to not make a prize.
You're doing real good.
It's upsetting. It's very
Yeah,
upsetting.
when somebody who sits behind a desk all day is incredibly out of shape, never does anything, that hardly does anything physical.
Okay,
Somebody else is out like Tim was, working their butt off, striving to be a great fighter. Why shouldn't he make the money? Why is it the dude who did no work, no nothing, but just was in the right place, had the right connections, can steal what he worked and what the abuse that he took at the hands of another warrior, right? Two warriors got in.
I'm sorry. Can he still get in if I hook him?
Definitely.
Okay, go ahead. Talk, Brian. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just text the email over and then they'll send him the link.
Okay.
Yeah, those guys did all the work. Yeah,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just somebody who didn't do all that hard work and take all that, go 12 rounds of another elite athlete wailing on you, and you're wailing. I mean, why it's a travesty that these warriors don't get.
I heard a statistic one time that a heavyweight bout going 12 rounds is almost the equivalent of being struck 180 times in the head with a piece of wood.
Right?
You know,
So,
so honestly, yeah, you can understand how, there's a lot of brain injuries in boxing, and you know what, we got to take care of these guys, man. They got
yeah,
to do
yeah,
it for
and they've
free.
earned it. They worked hard their
And
life to get there. They
it's
put the
it's really
time in.
yeah, it's totally really pushing the youth onto this movement, because you know what, they're not there yet. They're just in the beginning of their careers, and it's people like Tim that are going to be able to make these guys understand, hey, look, this is what's happening in the end. This
Wow.
is what's happening to these guys, and this guy can't do an interview because he can't hold a sentence. This guy can't do that, and these are all injuries that have happened, you know that they've in the ring, in
Mhm.
sparring, and
Paul Johnson. Send him the
upsetting.
link.
It's upsetting, but this movement is great. I'm pro
Paul
union
Johnson.
about
Send
it,
him the
and
link.
I think we do have to take care of our veterans, man. The guys that paved
Yeah,
the way for these youth.
yeah. They took the
Okay.
abuse, man. They did it. They went all them rounds. Most of us, I couldn't last a round in there. I get hit one time, and I'd probably
Man,
be.
you crazy. This
Great.
guy get on the heavy bag. We be at my son's gym. He be kicking that bag in half. You should see this guy. He throw
No,
the
You're
arms.
a fan of the kicks too, eh?
Well, he did martial arts or something.
I studied Thai for almost 10 years, so
I want to take Tim to meet. How do you say the guy's name? Sanchai. Go
oh,
do
I,
I want to do a video with you and him in Thailand. Sanchai, right? Is that how they say his name?
I believe that's
I don't
correct.
know about Tali.
Yo,
Oh, I'm breaking. We're going.
Thailand's fun, Tim.
Could you imagine a video with those two, that legend and this legend, talking about fighting?
Exactly. You know what? I'm still impressed that this legend is on this show with me every Friday.
Oh, he's a great dude. He's a great dude.
And then I
Oh
can say,
no, I'm down to earth, and
oh yes, yes.
everybody's important.
To
I
think
don't care. I don't care if I had 20 million. Everybody's important in this world.
I,
That's why I do it.
I'm 40 years old. I grew up watching him.
Oh, he's a young buck. I got a daughter older than you.
Yes, yes, I'm 40, but yes, I grew up as a kid watching you box, man. That's why it's unreal to me. It's like
Oh,
it's hard to it's hard to take in sometimes, but it's great. So Tim, what are the next steps that you guys are trying to like do? Like, what's the next step from here for this union? Just like the legal, and then after the legal, it's going
it's
to be
Paul again. It's Paul again. Hold on.
marketing style, right?
Hello.
Yeah, I think if I'll chime in a little bit here.
Yeah,
We should look at the healthcare industry first as kind of a support for all of this. I mean, something that football players did to really get a lot of balls rolling about the concussion
yeah.
issues. And,
Precaution,
uh,
tension, everything that happened.
yeah, maybe we can get support. I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, get neurological institutions behind us, and I mean, just starting there.
That's them old guys. Yeah, we sent them the link. I sent the link to the what's his name? I sent the
Tim,
link.
Tim, one of our viewers has said Tim Witherspoon versus Evander Holyfield would have been a great fight.
Well, my brother Anthony, who was a really hard puncher, he was like 13-0 with 13 knockouts. And then when we went to Don King, that's when he lost. He didn't like it. But
How about today? How about it today, Tim? Would you fight him today?
what, the way he is now?
Yeah. After that last outing that you saw against what was it? What's name slipped my mind?
Yeah, I know. They got that 5 million.
Yeah,
I don't know. I prefer to do what I'm doing now, helping former people, things that happened in the past. But to fight him, I know I'll probably do a good job. I need a little bit more time to get in shape, but I think I would do well because I don't know. People were saying that he was taking enhancers like steroid stuff and all that, so I don't think his body could recover as good like it was before because of that. He didn't look good in that fight, but if he looked like he did in that fight, I think I'll do really good because all I do is get up, cook food, work out, and come home. I don't do nothing else. So
no.
And YouTube videos.
Yes,
You watch
YouTube
the
videos.
YouTube
Yes, YouTube.
so
We have another couple comments here. One of our
Hey,
friends,
brother.
Carol from overseas, from Last Bell Boxing, says hello from the hotbed of boxing. British Boxing Board of Control led the way with ringside medical support in the past couple of years. Tim, AJ in the States, has he called you?
No, but I heard a lot of people said he's on the West Coast. He should be on the East Coast, where some really good intelligence at. I heard he was with Andre Ward's trainer. And what's really fooling these boxers today is that the boxers are winning, but not knowing how really good the trainers are. You know, Ali won a lot of fights, but Angelo Dundee never fought a day in his life. Lou Duva, his boxers won fights, but he never fought a day. Emmanuel Stewart, they said only had a couple of fights, but Tommy Hearns is damaged, no defense. A lot of his boxers are. So when the people see the boxer perform on television, they think that the trainer is really doing a good job. But I saw in most of those cases, like Sugar Hill, he never fought a day in his life. They had a video of him duplicating what his uncle did, or they put them both together. So he was hollering at Tyson Fury, and then they put a video next to it showing Amanda Stewart hollering at Tommy Hearns, and it was similar. It was like he was watching the film. You didn't see that, did you?
No, I didn't. I'm going to go back and watch that.
They had Sugar Hill on TV saying the same words his uncle said, and they had both of the tapes together with Emmanuel Stewart doing the same thing, pumping out, saying, "You got to use the fucking jab." Excuse my language. You got to use the effing jab. And so Sugar Hill was doing the same thing, and I don't really want to spend most of our time doing all these things. But these guys are going to the wrong people. He should come on the East Coast. Look how good I can talk. I can show him all this. I can get his defense together. All he needs is a good defense. All Tyson Fury need to do is tighten his defense up, and Wilder and Anthony Joshua. All three can punch. What about their defenses?
Well, you've heard
all three of them went on the canvas, didn't they?
Yeah, they all have.
Only time I went on the canvas is when I threw the fight with Bone Crusher. I threw the fight, and we'll talk about that in the future.
Yeah, we're not supposed to talk. That's the secret, Tim. That's gonna make us funny. That's the tell-all.
Graham, welcome to the show. Thanks for
Graham.
Hey, Graham.
Thank you.
We were just talking about the union and bringing it up to the courts and getting this thing really moving and getting healthcare involved with it to kind of like solidify it as an entity. And so that's pretty much where we're at. Brian had some good ideas. Tim has been called away twice on a phone call with Paul, I believe it was.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to call him again. He don't know how to. He don't know how to get on it. You heard that?
Hey, Paul, you're on the Friday night panel.
You have reached. Paul is telling me something interesting because it's a question of contractor versus employee. Oh,
there he is.
Is that Paul? Yo!
You made it.
That's what we need.
Now he can explain it.
Come on, Paul. Hey, Paul.
Yes.
Oh, there he is. Let me introduce you, and then I'm going to shut up.
I helped him, you guys. I'm his daughter, and I helped him.
Hey, she's beautiful, Paul.
She said.
Okay, this Bryant. Introduce yourself. No, you introduce yourself. Introduce yourself.
Nice to see you. We already met.
Wait a minute. That's Paul Johnson. Okay, he's the head of the BOC. The rest of y'all guys, go ahead. What happened to?
I think we kicked him out. Hey, Paul, we spoke on the phone a month or two ago. I can't remember when exactly. And we were talking specifically about, first of all, the number of people across society who support the union and all of your efforts so far. You also took great pains to explain the court situation with respect to an independent contractor versus an employer relationship. So those are the two takeaways that I had. Hey, Mike. So those are the two takeaways that I had, that you've done a lot of work so far. You've got a lot of support, and the Supreme Court has ruled that the employer-employee relationship stands in the boxing ring. So
Yes, yes. And we just got off the phone with a couple of attorneys, and there's individual boxers that have suffered damages, and Gerald McClellan is one that comes to mind, and there's others. And going forward, just like with the National Football League Players Association, there's repeated head trauma causes damages, and some people are fine, they're okay, and other people have difficulty. And it's just making sure that when we put this thing together, and boxing is in with single corporate structure, and the ranking groups are understanding that they're part of this thing, that the boxers have a voice, and by putting a voice in this process, there'll be when we put boxing into a single corporate structure, who's going to want to buy into that? Television. And the television rights for this thing will be astronomical, but we have to do it together as a group when we put this thing together, without kind of running all over the place. We make sure that everybody's together on the same stream of thought. Does that make sense?
Yes.
yes,
Yes, it does.
Okay, you got Bryant, real quick. You got Bryant, who you had a conversation with. My marketing director, too, is here also, okay?
Yes.
Paul, okay. And then you have the other guy.
Nice to see you, Paul.
Yes,
Nice to see you. Literally, we talked.
yes, and same here. Nice to see you as well. Yes.
And your daughter is as beautiful as they said she was when she was on the news there, by the way.
Yes. She's very familiar with talking on television. She's been there, and we're very proud of her.
Yeah.
And so,
Okay, you guys got to lead them into something.
absolutely. Well, we'll start off with that quick question from Carl over in the UK. Hello, Paul from the UK. How will the union work for journeymen who earn a little purse when fighting?
how many? What was that again?
How will the union work for journeymen who earn a little purse when fighting?
Paul, journeymen. I've been to England all the time.
Yeah.
Journeymans are boxers who they just keep using and putting them in with up and coming guys, and they just use them to put them in. Some of them upset some of the up and coming fighters, and some of them just keep on fighting as journeymen. They come in regular. If I'm correct, am I correct?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
I did an entire weekly special on journeyman boxers, also known as tomato cans. They're used as stepping stones or gatekeepers, you will call it. They usually have a very high loss to win ratio. I did profile a whole week of some of the best known. Some of these guys are up there 300 fights under their belt. They make $500 to $700 a week. They're responsible for their own traveling, own the hotels. And then out of that 500 to 700, they got to pay their cornermen. They got to pay promoters. So it's a joke. It's a joke. But some of these guys, they do it because they love it. Some of them can make a pretty good living at it. But it's unfortunate. But that's what the journeyman is.
Well, and yes, and I'm familiar with what a journeyman is, and when you have a boxer that is a world champion, and you have a boxer that's had 2 or 3 fights, obviously a pension plan for a great champion who's making millions of dollars. Those kind of fighters can afford their own pension plan, but there will be a way that by putting a union together with this thing, that you can have a pension plan. It doesn't have to be just a pension in dollars. You can have a pension plan that could help boxers find employment, could help boxers with scholarships to college. There's all sorts of creative pension plans that you can put together across the spectrum of fighters, from world champions making hundreds of millions of dollars to the club fighters that are making $1,000 a fight. So
right. Well, that's
but that can be put together. but the interesting thing about the sport right now is there has to be a way when you have all the other major sports are put together into a corporate structure. And boxing is the only sport that there is no corporate structure. There is no there is no getting together the promoters and the boxers, managers, trainers, referees, judges, getting the sport put together, and then with the ranking groups who are, if I'm a fighter and I haven't um uh I'm a I'm ranked number 10 or number 6 or 7 or whatever I'm ranked, that and I haven't fought another fighter, you have to have fighters ranked where they're ranked 10 or 8, even though they haven't fought each other. One is ranked above another one because of the competition who they fought, and when that is put together as a corporate thing, the the business of boxing, when it has all those fighters that are ranked, and one is ranked here, one is ranked there, we will be able to 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 put this thing together so that there's the television rights. When this thing is put together in a corporate structure, the television rights, do you know how much the television rights are for football and baseball and basketball and hockey? It's in the billions.
Yeah, it's
And
astronomical.
yes, and boxing needs to be put together into a corporate structure with a union for the boxers, with a pension plan, and like I say, the pension can be in money or it can be in
Healthcare, anything.
other
Yeah.
other other ways that you can give benefits for fighters, but put it into a corporate structure so you can sell the television rights instead of you get one promoter, you get Top Rank, and we've talked with the promoters, we've talked with Bob Arum, we've talked with Ludabella, uh, um, uh, Joe DeGuardia, we've talked to the promoters, and the promoters I think understand that the dangers that the boxers go through in the sport of boxing, there's no doubt. You suffer chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It's
Mhm.
dangerous. There's head trauma. Some do, and some can box their whole life and have no problems. But the point is, it's dangerous. And by putting together boxing into a corporate structure, then when we have the when we go to television and we say we've got this a chance to have two undisputed champions. And that in boxing in the old days used to go, and the undisputed champion. But now, if you get confused with, the
Unified,
WBC,
undisputed.
WBA, the IBA, and when you do that, and when the public starts going, yeah, the alphabet soup group, when the public talks like that, that's really unhealthy for the sport. And if we can put it together so that there's a pathway, and you can have the WBA and IBF and WBO and the WBC, they can be involved, but only if the boxers that are ranked, and you could have at the beginning of a season have like a draft where the WBC, who do you pick for your number one contender? WBA, who do you pick? And go all the way down. So each they have the top 20 fighters, but no double ups. If you're in one ranking group, you're not in another one. Then you can have a process where you can have a pathway to undisputed championship tournaments, which television would love and they'd pay for.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Boxing like it was back in the old day.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
There's way too many belts, way too many sanctioning bodies nowadays. I believe over 17 weight classes. I believe there's 68 belts up for grabs at any given time.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yes.
Absolutely
Yeah,
ridiculous.
and I remember back when you guys know Jose Torres.
Yes.
Oh, I know him real good.
I know you do, and there's been problems there, but understand that when we go forward with this thing, there's going to be people that doesn't like this one, doesn't like that one, but we have to stay focused on what we're doing by putting the sport into a single corporate structure with a union and a pension, and with true undisputed championship tournaments and the television rights. And if we stay focused on that, then if there's somebody that this guy doesn't like this guy or that guy doesn't like, we can or it's women now too with women boxing. We can put this thing together and set aside the differences that people have because one of the things that's hurt boxing forever is if there's a promoter that doesn't like another promoter, then those fighters that those promoters have don't meet each other, and that's where conflict of interest and antitrust
Like the
and
Bob Arum Eddie Hearn problem.
yes,
Right? We've been
that's
waiting
right.
to see, we've been waiting to see champions fight champions forever, and it's just because these two have a disliking for each other. Well, I think it's more Bob Arum has a disliking for Eddie Hearn because
Well,
Eddie Hearn has tried to reach out and tried to get these fights going, but Bob Arum wants nothing to do with it.
well, and even if there was two boxers that don't get along,
Right.
by having a union, they're going to understand. It's like I'm sure there's NFL players, one player doesn't like another one, but the one thing they have in common is they're in a union.
Yeah.
So we had talked about, and I've talked about this with Brian as well, the similarities between forming a union and forming a players association, and even in Hollywood when they formed the Screen Actors Guild. So have you looked into the differences and or similarities between
Yes.
those three?
We've talked to the Screen Actors Guild. We've talked to the people. We've got letters of support from the National Football League Players Association, the baseball players, basketball, hockey, and the Screen Actors Guild. And one of the things about the Screen Actors Guild that's very similar to boxing is in the other sports you have teams. In boxing you have individual, and I don't want to say you get close to when you're talking about individuals where you say, well, you can't have a union because you're individual contractors.
Right.
And boxers are not. And we have that Supreme Court precedent case where there was a fighter in New York who fought and he died in the ring, and his parents fought for collective bargaining rights. They sued the promoter, and the promoter said, "No, you're not an employee. You're an independent contractor, and we can't give you." And they appealed it, and and went to the New York Supreme Court, and the New York Supreme Court ruled that boxers are indeed employees and promoters are indeed employers, and so that case was held up, and that's obviously, to have a union, you have to have that employee-employer relationship distinguished.
An employer can't take money from you. He has to generate that money, right?
Well, that's
No, the promoter can't take money from a boxer. That's in the Muhammad Ali law.
well. I mean, you're going to negotiate. You're going to
Okay.
negotiate things on what you can do. But the reason why the Muhammad Ali Act put that in there is they didn't want, promoters sign a contract with a boxer, and the boxer says, okay, to the promoter, you're going to give me fights, and you're going to take you're going to pay me this much money for the fight. So there are, it is complicated, and we have to all understand that what we're putting together here has been needed in boxing forever, and it's one of the reasons why the boxers, they people say, "Ah, that guy over there, he's punch drunk. Look at him. He can't even," these things go on. And I want to say, hey, that's our business. If a boxer gets injured in the ring, we'll take care of that. But it has to be handled through the collective bargaining process where you have somebody to bargain with. And the promoters are obviously going to be the employers, but they have to understand that if they say, no, we're not going to do this, we're not going to recognize boxers having a union or an association or anything else, we're not going to do this, then we would say, then we're going to go to court. And we're talking to attorneys, and believe me, the case involved with boxers and head trauma is the exact same reason that the football players,
Yeah.
when the owners, they said, okay, we're not going to go to court, we'll
Yeah.
settle. And the reason they settle is because they knew that they were going to lose.
Yeah. Paul, we had an interesting question come in from one of our viewers asking, with putting it together, how do you think it would work overseas with different employment laws and legislation? How would you be able to combine all that?
Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take, okay, right now the major television place is in the United States, and there's some stuff in the United Kingdom and in Mexico and Canada. Those fighters are going to, come into this association, whatever you want to call it, the corporate structure, with the union, whatever you want to call it, they will come in. But there will be a single structure of which will start out. There will be a lot of fighters from America, and there's going to be television places, whether it's ESPN or Showtime or wherever it is, where the television rights will be put on, where you have a pathway to undisputed championships. And there will be fighters from Canada and fighters from Mexico and fighters from South America that will come in. But there's someplace the corporate structure is going to probably be in America, but that won't in any way keep fighters from all over the world, United Kingdom, China, Russia, wherever, that join this corporate structure of professional boxing.
Have you taken a look at, because the one that comes to mind is FIFA. They're an international governing body with respect to soccer or football, depending what country you live in. And they obviously have to govern themselves according to international law. So I'm just curious whether you've looked at the FIFA scenario.
Well, I haven't really, and I guess the reason that one of the things that we did when we dealt with each state have state commissions, and when we had a meeting with the state commissions years ago, and we talked about specifically about in one state has this rule, one state has that rule, but there has to be a point where if you want to put boxing together with a corporate structure with a union, there has to be a clientele, and the clientele in this case, and we were very fortunate because with the state commissions, every boxer is licensed and registered. Their name is licensed and registered, so you have access to who the members would be. And of course, I'm sure there's the organizations and for Canadian boxers and Mexican boxers and United Kingdom and all over the world, there's places where these fighters are kept track of, who they fought, et cetera, et cetera. And we have the opportunity now to put this all into a single corporate structure. And obviously you're going to have a difference between if you've got fighters that are rated in the top 10, the top 20, versus you got a fighter that's had one or two fights. And obviously there's going to be differences between, and like we talked about, not everybody's going to have a gigantic pension, but the fighters that are making millions of money, you got, say, like a Floyd Mayweather, somebody who's making tons of money, and then you have a guy that's making $1,000. Well, like we said, you can have a pension plan that deals with employment, helps people get jobs, helps them with scholarships, going to college. There's other ways that you can have a pension plan besides just money payout.
Right.
Hey, Brian, got any questions?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see the sport moving in that direction. It's probably one of the biggest ones that's been left behind in a lot of ways. But, I got to really learn more about it to be more sophisticated. I have obviously very general understanding on how unions work and then the legal envelope of it and how that's all done. I've never really followed a lot of the like your organized sports like baseball and all that. I've never been into that. I was actually a golf pro once, many years ago. So there's not a lot of injuries in golf, except for Tiger. I don't know.
There's a lot of similarities between golf and boxing in terms of there's a golf association, the PGA.
Right. PGA, yes, yes.
There is an association for golf, and that would be very similar.
Yes.
But there would be in boxing as well.
Yeah, and you're right about that. I guess just the injury and the ability to play the game so much later in life, senior tour and stuff like that. And now they're making a lot more money. Back when Ben Hogan and all those guys were playing, man, they weren't making the tour didn't pay much at all, but they changed that. I mean, that really. But I guess with boxing, it's just really the amount of damage that people get. And I like what we were talking about, Paul, about how the game would get better. The sport, I should say, would get better if journeymen, like the people who are the ones, sparring partners or, in there, like you said, gatekeepers, knew that they would be taken care of, because they're the ones not going to make a lot of money at it, but they're the ones really the fuel of what's pushing the boxers to get better and to pass that one level and this next level. And if we increase that, man, the fighters of tomorrow, they'd be fantastic. But why would somebody get themselves incredibly beat up for very little money and then be, kind of disabled sometimes afterwards, just with some of the neurological conditions and even probably internal issues that some people develop from boxing. So I think that was kind of interesting. When we were talking about that, you kind of sparked my mind turning there in that direction.
Well, without these journeymen, and taking care of them, we wouldn't have these up and coming prospects. These journeymen are the ones that test these prospects to find the next superstar. And without these guys, we might not find that next superstar in boxing.
And I like how you're saying that. I like that.
It's true.
I like how you said the level thing. You really made me start thinking with the levels, and then with talking with Paul, I'm learning. But I like that concept that you said.
Right. And, without these journeyman boxers to test these prospects, put that pressure on them, lean on them for all the rounds, tie them up when they're in the corners, frustrate them, test them and get them out of that mentality of the amateur boxing style and teaching them. They're literally teaching them the way of the pro. And without these guys, we wouldn't find these superstars. And, if we can't take care of them, then what the hell are we doing?
Right.
Hey, Paul, just let me say something real quick.
Yes.
There wouldn't be no journeyman if there was a lot more good trainers. You know what I'm saying? That would keep them from stop losing. So we, in the future, let's talk about this stuff. Is really important. I know that's important, but we need to get these journeymans, right? Before they get journeymans, we got to get the right guys working with them so they don't become journeymans. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Absolutely, Tim. That's and when you talk about the dangers of repetitive head trauma in boxing, you don't just have fights. You have to go to the gym and you have to train and you got to spar. And granted, I heard somebody say the other day, they go, "Oh, well, you wear headgear when you're sparring." I talked to a doctor in Las Vegas. And that doctor told me that when you have headgear, that will protect you from cuts, but it will not protect you from the jarring of the head, which is what causes head trauma and CTE.
A lot of these fighters too also suffer some of these injuries in sparring before they get into the fight. Like a lot of people don't understand that. These guys are taking a lot of damage when they're getting ready for that fight. That last serious week of sparring before they take their rest, before they get in the ring. That's where sometimes these injuries happen.
Yep. Absolutely. And I was nothing like you, Tim. Wasn't a world champion. I was a club fighter. I had like 12 pro fights. But man, I went to the gym and I did my sparring, and you have to do that. And I love boxing. I love it. It's a great sport, but it needs what we're talking about tonight. It needs to be put together with a union. And like I say, the great thing is the sport of boxing has no single corporate structure. So we have a chance to say to the promoters, look, we can come together and do this. And I've talked to Bob Arum and I've talked to some of the other major promoters, and they, I think, understand that you got two ways that we can go. Either we can put it together and put it into a single corporate structure and make some money and everybody wins and the boxers are going to get taken care of or else we can go to court.
Yeah.
So either way, we can go either way, but I'll tell you, if we go to court, we're not going to lose. And if we do it the other way, there's going to be a lot of winners.
So when it comes down to, say, for example, in the film industry, you have various unions who are part of the production crew, not the actors, but the production crew.
Right.
And those unions are divided up by skill level, shall we say. So they are paid, not every person in the same union gets the same rate of pay. It's based on your skill and your experience. And they have various tickets that they issue to those crew members to determine their value, for lack of a better description. So I wonder if that might be a similar way of addressing the pay structure out of the gate, like just given your experience, given uh, your level of expertise, as opposed to just saying a journeyman is worth X amount of dollars per fight, and that's the same as what a 54-year-old who's just getting back, and I don't know, but you know what I mean. It's a very funny example, but I would have to imagine you're going to have different rates of pay for each different fighter.
Well, if you had a uh, one of the important things about boxing, and we're very fortunate, is that every boxer, and let's take the United States to begin with, is licensed and it's documented. Every time they've stepped in the ring and had a fight, it's documented and registered who they fought, what the result was, how many rounds it went, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a way of diagnosing immediately what the background is of a fighter, how many fights he's had, and et cetera, et cetera. So we can take care of that part when we put this thing together for boxing. We'll know who every boxer is, where they're from, how many fights they've had, et cetera, et cetera. We can do that. But that's just getting the people who are in the ring. We have managers, trainers, referees, judges, all of these people that are part of the sport, and they're going to be a part of this corporate structure as well. And we will it'll be a long time coming. And believe me, when it comes to money in professional sports, it's the public that pays the money.
That's right.
And the public has been wanting forever for professional boxing to be put together where you don't get confused in their ranking, sanctioning, blah, blah, blah. Who's this? Who's that?
How many belts you carrying?
Yeah. The boxers are being taken advantage of. Nobody cares about the boxers. All of these problems can be taken care of.
With like parts of the union, you were saying also like the coaching and the management and all that kind of stuff. Tim, you were saying that one of the things is better coaching out there. Would the union provide some sort of like structure for all coaching so that they're all leveled at a certain level so that we can protect the fighters?
Yeah, I think that and like at those levels, I think that somebody should be watching those guys. Because they can get groomed into if there's good trainers at that level. I'm sure the thing about journeymen will die down. They'll be more competitive.
Right.
So that's the area where I think they need a lot of interest. Why should it be a journeyman? It should be equal talent and equal, everywhere, all in the boxing game. So I know that they get fighters to build another fighter up. I think it should be equal everywhere. Let him have a fair chance. If you understand what I'm saying, let these guys that's journeymans or don't lead them into journeylism. Just train them so they don't have to go that way, and then we can eliminate the Germany, and it'll be just fighters fighting fighters.
Tim, my dear friend, you're an idealist, and I understand that 100%. But I got to tell you, you and I both know that in the sport of boxing, you are going to have great undefeated champions. You're going to have beginning pros coming out of the Olympics. You're going to have pros coming out of the Golden Gloves. You're going to have your club fighters, and you're going to have those. And that's one of the reasons I think we're talking about a union.
Okay.
So we can take the great champions, the club fighters, and the beginning pros, and everybody in between, and we can say, okay, if you're going into boxing, there are going to be things that are going to happen to you, whether it's getting proper management and this and that, but you're also going to get hit in the head. And when that concussive problem happens and a boxer has difficulties, they're going to be able to turn to a union and not be able to start begging for help and standing on a street corner someplace with a hat. That's one of the dignities about a union, is that It's a place where all the boxers can come back to and have a place that they can rely on to get help and assistance. And like I say, you can have pensions that pay out money, and you can have pensions that help you get a job or help you get go
Yeah,
to college or whatever.
help you live a better life in your older age.
Exactly.
Healthcare. Brian, I did like that what you were talking about earlier. Getting the healthcare involved with with healthcare with this union would be great to provide that, because it is a combative sport. These guys are gladiators. They are hitting each other, and over time your body breaks down, and you don't really find out how hurt you are until you start to turn those senior years or your golden years, and we got to have something. There definitely has to be something in place to take care of these guys.
Yes,
I'd
and
be interested. Oh, sorry, Paul. You don't mind if I
yes,
just say? I'd be interested to know how many fighters on the lower levels, especially, don't have health insurance. That'd be interesting to know how many of them are probably not utilizing the healthcare system because they just can't afford. I mean, health insurance is extremely expensive. If you're not in a large organization like a corporation, it's just ridiculously. How many of them are actually have probably issues out of trauma that's happened that could have been treated, but due to not being able to afford the care. So that's even something else to look at. I don't know if there is a healthcare program for combined for fighters, like where that. I don't know if that's under some envelope. Would that be something that would definitely be something to add to the union? Is a large healthcare group. So it's a lot cheaper. The more people, the more combined. And then if you're getting assets in from outside corporations, help to lower the co-pays and everything else, the cost of the insurance, that would again also attract people to say, boy, I can get a really good healthcare program. But anyway, sorry, I digress. But
well, no, I think you're spot on. I think you make an excellent point. The more people, we all know this is how insurance works. The more people you have, the better benefits you get. And
Right.
if boxing was to put itself into a single corporate structure, there would be benefits available to boxers, all boxers. That right now it's kind of a hit and miss thing as you go. But as to your point, I think you're exactly right. I think there's a lot of fighters that just go through life, and this is what it is to be a boxer. And you get done, you get nothing, and that's what if we're successful in doing what we're gonna do here, and we will be successful because it can't be stopped. Um, they're gonna realize that hey, hey, the people that I go to when my career is over is my my fellow boxers and the organization that we have, and there'll be a lot of people across the United States I know from, at least I believe, that like boxing, know boxing, that are very well off and would contribute money into a boxer's pension plan if they were so asked. I know there
that
were.
now I ask a question to you guys because I really don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert at this all. Is one step, like let's say we wanted to get something big done. Um, would one step be maybe appealing to some large corporations, the boxing industry, and insurance companies to come together with an insurance plan, health insurance to start? The first thing is to get a health insurance plan that's supplemented by maybe corporate donations or whatever that could help right away start applying health care to some of these. And that would be the first thing fighters say, boy, look at this, we're already getting, because that's a big hot point nowadays is what kind of health insurance do you have? And if you can introduce them to a health care program that's really good, maybe they'll start thinking, well, what else can we get? If they can get that done, what else can they get us? And that might bring more of your average fighters on board with it and say, boy, these guys got all this for us. They were able to organize all this. And now I have a very affordable healthcare plan or a free one. I don't know how that would work or what it would look like. I don't know. But I don't know. Would you guys see that as an initial move to kind of make some headway, show some ability to really get something done?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I would also, up here in Canada, for example, the musicians, the independent musicians, and there's quite a few of them, they can access programs, not at all to do with the government, but independently promoted programs They can join a federation, for example, and that federation will provide them access to a health insurance program. So as independent musicians, and by the way, they also have the option of joining one of the much bigger international trade unions if they needed help, if they got much bigger, quite frankly. But that's a really good example. Like the independent musicians, for example, have to take care of themselves. They have their own expenses, very similar to boxers, although they do travel in a group. But I'm just saying there are ways around that, and that would be an excellent first step to provide boxers at any level access to universal health care through a proper insurance company.
Well,
It
I
would,
think
it would be really cheap, to be blunt. I mean, I think these
yes,
guys pay $10 a month.
yes, and I think that there would be insurance companies. Obviously, uh, the you would want one specific insurance company because it would be better for them and better for us if all the members were paying into one insurance company. But there are pension plans available that will be able to that would be and other individuals as well that would be very very interested in getting involved with this and giving boxers whom the story has been written about in motion pictures, told about in books forever about boxers that need assistance. And one of the dignities is that rather than going around and asking for help, they will have their own organization to help themselves.
Yes, but
That's great.
I was agreeing with Brian's point as well that as a first step, a tangible benefit to towards a union would be to provide healthcare benefits through an insurance company. I think that's easily done, to be blunt.
Well, and if you that would be something that I think that would be something we should put together and maybe talk about approaching an insurance company and saying you would be the insurance company that would be the one that we would go to for this corporate structure for the union and et cetera, et cetera. And I think um, the uh, the uh, the more potential customers that they get
Mhm.
and this single company that we go to, you could make a deal.
Absolutely.
Oh, I believe any insurance company would be able to jump on board with anything in professional sports. Really, to be honest, it's a moneymaker at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm
Now,
curious.
what do you guys? How do you guys feel about? Do you think it's now? I don't know. I'm only come from another perspective. Would there be a lot of corporate sponsorship where there would be monies donated to the insurance program, whatever that would look like? Do you think that would be a probability to really lower and increase probably the quality of the insurance program?
Oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine if boxing was put together into a corporate structure?
Like the
And
NFL.
yes, like the NFL, and when the NFL attaches its name to any corporation, it's a very valuable working relationship both ways.
Co-branded.
Both sides benefit.
Now, when they would give, now I don't know if you know this, if they is that considered a donation? Is it a tax write-off for those corporations? If they were to donate it to some fund, would we make like a nonprofit to take those donated monies for the insurance companies? That way, it could be even a corporate write-off.
Oh, of course you can do that. Sure,
Okay, all right.
of course. Yep.
So all these things are my mind, as Tim knows, I'm all about corporate. I know how their
No.
minds work.
Well,
It's totally in its infancy.
that's one of the reasons why it's so important you're a part of this thing because this thing is going to be a corporate structure.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
going to be, and there will be. If you were just in watching TV or walking or living on this planet, you see professional boxing all the time. It's in motion pictures and books. It's all the time they make references to it in commercials all the time. You see it. So the idea of that boxers are going to take care of themselves, there would be a lot of people that would be very interested in getting involved with that and helping and seeing that come to fruition.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even kind of an icon for the whole thing would be Muhammad Ali. Somebody who suffered from early onset Parkinson's, went through the end stage. I mean, right there, maybe, is an example of maybe somebody like with the technologies we have now. If you have a boxer who has the early onset Parkinson's that's exacerbated by the sport itself, what if that's caught early? Maybe Muhammad Ali would have fared a lot better considering now the drugs that we have, the technologies we have in hand. I mean, that's another big thing is like, look what happened to Muhammad Ali. He gave it all to the sport and it accelerated his condition. But these are the things that boxers face, and that's a reality right there. That's somebody put up. Look, this is what they suffer. And he may have only had mild Parkinson's had he not had the exacerbations from boxing itself. Those are things that could have accelerated it ridiculously. So I just as an example that we can put in front of the world to say, here's one of the greatest ever. And he had to suffer, and this is a reason why boxers need healthcare, because these are the type of things they face.
Yes, and we've talked with his, and Tim, you knew Muhammad, and we've talked with his family, and there's no question that the dignity for boxers is having a voice in their own profession, and not having to wait for people to give them handouts.
Right.
Yeah.
It's getting to that time, I think, Graham. We're at that hour. Yes, we are.
Time flies when you're having a good time.
Paul was 15 minutes late. We should dock him.
All right,
Before we sign off, I just want to drop the cards that are happening this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're all getting $10,000 a piece. I think. Sorry, man. You're docked $3,000 or something like that.
You want to talk about the fights, right?
Yeah, there's an all Canadian card tonight. It's just started, guys. 7 p.m. Oscar Rivas versus Ryan Rosicky. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, this should be a good card, man. Rosicky and Rivas will clash tonight in a 12-rounder to crown the inaugural WBC Bridgerweight World Champion.
Yes.
Rivas has fought as high as 251, and Rosicky has spent the entirety of his 5-year pro career at a cruiserweight. So it's going to be a good battle. Rivas is 27-1 with 19 KOs. Is a 2008 Colombian Olympian who has spent his 12-year pro career based in Montreal. So, guys, good card there. Also, you're not going to know too many people on here. I know a few guys. We got Evan Holyfield, Evander Holyfield's son, is on this card as well. Or no, sorry, he's on he's on the card Saturday with Jamal Herring and Shakur Stevenson, which I can't wait to see this fight, man. I've been waiting for this one to happen. The WBO World Super Feather title is up for grabs. The co-main event is Evander Holyfield's son, Evan Holyfield, man, who's 7-0 right now against Charles Stanford. Also, one of the guys I profile and have been watching closely, Xander Zayas, 10-0, is fighting Dan Carpensey. And also, one of our guys that's a regular on our show that I've been following since his pro debut, Haven Brady Jr., is going to be on that card against Roberto Negrete. They're both 3-0. Somebody's losing Saturday night. And Troy Isley, another one of the guys that I've profiled before, is on this card. Another undefeated who's got 2 fights under his belt, will be taking on Nicolo Navarro, who I've also debuted. So there's a lot of good fights this weekend, guys. So I hope you guys check it out.
Boxing seems to be growing as a sport, with a lot of people being interested in the sport of professional boxing, without a doubt.
Definitely.
So every Friday, would you suggest that maybe if we, like, the same guys could come on and give the information? It's up to Brian. Me and Brian, I see him all the day. Every day. Paul, I talk to Paul. He fills the information. It's up to you guys to make sure that maybe if they want to come on all the time,
definitely. Paul, join us anytime to update us with everything that's going on in the union. The Talkin Fight family, we're definitely proud supporters of this. We're definitely behind it. Any way that I can help, anything that I can do, let me know. Anything.
Absolutely. And
Brian also.
And let's should us 5 get together, make another time, and Tim, you can kind of set it up, and
is that 7
again to get together again.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
it's 7 o'clock every Friday, but
We can plan anytime. Really, we can do it anytime you guys want.
okay.
We're always here. We create shows all the time. I'm on every day of the week.
Well, let's do it because putting this thing together as a business, it's going to be gigantic, but it's going to be what the public wants, and I think the time is now.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Paul, you got to put your light in your room so we can see you.
Hey, Tim, maybe you should get that woman that sent you the headphones and mic to send him a nice light.
Boy, what a ripoff. Well, I told Brian a little bit about it. What a ripoff. She set me up so I could talk about Don King. I don't want to talk about that negative stuff no more.
Yeah.
She set me up good.
Hey,
I told her,
Tim. Only
quick
if they
question.
pay a lot of money. We'll talk about anything as
Yeah,
long as
man.
they pay a lot of money.
That's
Private
right.
empty bank accounts and empty.
oh,
bank
there you go, Paul. Okay. That's the first time I seen him with his glasses off. Wow,
It's
Paul.
me. It's
maybe
me.
maybe just as a quick
Well,
thought
I
here before we leave.
I think.
Well,
I'm sorry.
there was a
Somebody-
lot of people. There was a lot of people asking questions, so I know you missed that one.
Let-
You
let
see
me-
all those people asking questions?
Oh yeah, no, we made sure to throw those in there and Paul
Okay.
answered them perfectly. Paul, just one question. So the time is now to get this off the ground and going. How long before or when would you like to see something actually solidified and start to like make the movement? How long do you think it's going to take, and how long would you like it to take?
Well, I think one of the things that we would want to do, and I don't think we're that far away. I think in the next 6 months we could make an announcement. But one of the things I think you want to do before you go public with anything
Right.
is I think you want to have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed. You want to have all the business part of it put together so that when you come out and you say, okay, let's say you had a summit meeting, and at the summit meeting you had boxers, promoters, managers, trainers, referees, judges, mostly boxers and promoters, which is where the money is going to be from the employee thing. But put the sport together into a corporate structure with the ranking groups involved, certainly. But if you have a summit meeting and you got together with the people who were invited at that summit meeting so that you had everything put together so that when you came out to the public would be able to see exactly what you're going to do, and you wouldn't be changing it down the road. And well, we thought we were going to do this, but
Right.
now we got to do that. All of that stuff would be taken care of.
Okay.
And I think it starts out by having these kinds of conversations that we're having right now.
Definitely. Everything starts with a conversation. That's for sure. And honestly, this is a good one. And honestly, I'm so happy that we're actually people are trying to do something about it and trying to take care of these guys who have been entertaining us for so many years. Tim, thank you for.
I'll be there next Friday,
Yeah,
7
man.
o'clock.
Tim, thank you again, man. Brian, thank you
problem.
for joining us.
And-
Paul, it was very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Can I ask one thing?
Definitely.
Let's think about this. Let's try to keep the discussions that we've had, and anybody who disagrees with me, please tell me right now. Let's keep the discussions that we're having private amongst ourselves, so that not because there's somebody that that isn't trustworthy, but it's just so we all know the directions that we're going, and so we can keep
Hush, hush.
focused on the business part of this thing without it getting something coming out public that's about this or about that.
But people
It's
listening to us
confusing.
now, Paul. I'm sorry to cut you off, but there's people that listening to us on the show.
But see, we haven't all we've really done is just talked about the infancy and where we would like it to
Okay.
be. We
Well,
haven't
there's
really
a lot of business left to be done.
we'll just make sure that these conversations that we want to have will happen off camera, but on camera.
My
Yes.
last comment on this would be assigning a little bit of homework. I'd be curious to hear how the F1 drivers, because boxing is an international sport. It attracts boxers from around the world, and if you're going to develop a union or a players association or a guild of any sort, you have to look at it from a global perspective, not just according to American law. So I'd be curious to see how the F1,
They have a Grand Prix Drivers Association.
right? So
Yeah.
let's take a look at some of these international FIFA. Let's take a look at some of these international organizations who work with athletes from around the world, but under one umbrella.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm down for any kind of homework, man.
excellent point. And these attorneys that we were talking to before I came on with U5, that was one of the things that was brought up, and that one of the things that we'll be able to do with this thing, as being a professional boxing business, and boxing's all over the planet.
Mhm.
One of the things that we'll be able to do is make, through the collective bargaining process, make the rules and regulations between boxers and promoters that we want to do, and we will be able to, I don't want to say write our own rules, but there were a lot of things that will go from a union, specifically not of a country, but of the employees, and that union will be able to spread worldwide with its own rules and regulations agreed to through the collective bargaining process.
Right. Standardize.
Does everybody agree with that? Or
Yes, definitely.
It's just going to be harder overseas trying to get to them. I spent real quick. I spent time over in England. You guys know, and a lot of the boxers are real manager and promoter, not like here. But some of them will hear some information and say, "Man, that's better for me." No, over there is harder. They stick to them, and all the promoter or the manager do is just give them a little bit of cheese. And it's more harder over there. So I used to tell Paul, let's get America straightened out. But when we go over to Europe, it's going to be extra hard. But we can straighten that over here. But over there, the boxers, they're loyal. Maybe it's changing. I've been talking to Cash Ali. He's got a little title, and I'm trying to convince him to start speaking out. So I've been doing work for us, but it might be hard for him to start speaking out, because everybody else is not. So just 1 or 2 or 3 guys is serious, and then the rest they loyal, and it's going to be hard in Europe.
Yeah.
All right, Tim. So get hold of AJ for us, will you?
Yeah, get hold of AJ.
Oh man,
defense,
that's
brother.
Brian's cousin. That's Brian's cousin.
I think Teofimo Lopez is the guy to talk to too.
Yeah, yeah, Tio.
Oh, okay, that's what you mean. And so I try to get some of them guys and talk to them over there.
Yeah,
I've been talking to several of them, but let's keep pushing. That's all.
Well, and if we can keep those conversations as private as we can, so that when we come on and we talk about business here, that we're talking about the business that the public's going to want to see and they're going to love it, and then we're going to talk about the privacy of how we're going to do that, because there are going to be a lot of different interests in this business that we have to.
I think Brian can help too. Brian can help. Paul.
It's literally changing the face of something that's been run by crooks. For
well,
years.
and and I don't want to take anybody's time here, but I know people, and I don't go up to them and I don't go, "Have you ever been arrested? Are you a crook? Are you good at that?" I don't know. Right. What I do know is that anybody who gets involved with this, if somebody's done something in violation of the law in any business, if you've done something like that, you're not going to be a part of it, and that's just how it is.
No. I work deep in the corporate world, man. I have a different perspective of how criminals can actually work. Oh man,
depends on what you're using them for, Brian.
Yeah. Well, let's just say that you can get creative with laws, man, and maybe some things in the long run are not very ethical, to be honest with you. But they've lobbied and they've done all the things they can to do certain things that really are not probably. They're not ethical, but corporations can get, believe me, away with stuff.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why it's important you have in here, because we need that input. And obviously with boxing, there's going to be, the politicians are going to be looking at boxing. So obviously we're going to have to watch what we do, and everything's going to have to be on the up and up. We know that, but there's a lot of business to be done. And I think this is a tremendous first start, and I hope us five can get together again and
Definitely.
continue this momentum.
Definitely. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the future. That's for sure. Super exciting. Super exciting news.
Perfect.
So that being said,
Okay.
I guess it's time for us to sign off and let all our viewers around the world who are watching, it's time for us to get to work so you don't have to. we got fights to watch, so you can find out who the winner of the Knockout of the Week award is on Sunday when you watch me at 4 p.m. live with my
And
man.
we will have undisputed champions once again.
Yes, we will. Eventually we will have it, man. Get rid of these 68 belts. We don't need that many.
Yep.
Hey, Mike,
Thank you.
I want to talk with you about podcast stuff after.
All right, cool. Sounds
I
good.
have some ideas, big ones. So
Okay, sounds good. So,
So y'all got the communication.
yes.
And we'll get
Okay,
together
good,
again.
good.
We'll get together again next. Let's talk about getting together again next Friday. Us
Yes,
five.
for sure.
All
Paul,
right.
it was very nice to meet you. We'll talk next Friday. Thank you for coming on the show. Tim, always a pleasure, my friend. Much love.
Thank you.
Graham. Brian, we'll talk in a few minutes. Talkin' Fight fans, thanks for tuning in. It's your boy,
Thank
Mike.
you, Paul. Next Friday, Paul.
Coming through.
Yeah, absolutely,
Talkin'
gentlemen.
Fight
We'll see
panel
you.
Friday night.
Looking forward
next
to it.
week.
And we got to get a woman involved here at some point.
Oh, we'll get him. We'll get
With
him.
women boxing, you bet.